Dun, 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 dun. Okay, I don't have the patience for this bit. Hello, welcome back to the stream. Uh, there's a lot of things. There are many things, in fact, happening. I thought it'd be funny. I came up with just a couple minutes ago the idea to do that little Jaws sting bit in the lead up to me like showing up on stream, but that takes a while, and I'm kind of itching to get going. Hopefully, stream will be relatively uneventful as far as my ability to actually play the game. Before I get into the politics of everything that's been going on, I want to talk a little bit about my hand injury. My right hand is well, is injured, shall we say? And I think in the truest sense of the term injury, like with a sports injury. Yesterday I was playing Super Smash Bros. I was playing Fox because fucking, of course, this would happen when I'm playing Fox. Milan, y'all, welcome to the stream, and thank you very much for the follow. Uh, and I was like dash dancing and wave dashing around. I like to do a lot of really suave movement in Super Smash Bros. And I remember being in like the flow state or whatever, where I was like really in the zone. I was moving really well, and I recognized, like, I'm the architect of my own misery here. Like, me playing so well is why I got this injury. Is that I was doing some of the like movement that I like to do, and I realized, oh shit, I shouldn't go towards him. I need to retreat, and so my right hand, I like consciously jerked my right hand to press a different button, and I actually felt everything just like seize up and just fucking like creak and grind in my right hand, even though was like moving perfectly. I was like and I felt it hurt in the moment too. It was really painful. And I was like, oh shit, that's gonna have long-term consequences. And by long-term, I mean like after the duration of that game. So my hand is very sore, and I'm gonna stop playing Super Smash Bros. For a few days. It's probably a good idea to not do that. Um, this actually reminds me of another prominent Fox player in the Melee community who had a similar hand injury from playing Fox. So I will take a break from the game and not give myself carpal tunnel syndrome if possible. As for Mario Kart Wii, it should be fine, I think. Should be fine. The only two buttons I need to worry about with my right hand, or actually the only three, are A, X, and R. A and X I can press with my thumb, and then R I can press with my index. The actual like difficult stuff that I will have to do mostly involves my left hand. See, I have a claw grip sometimes. So that's what's up. Let me bring up the text document. Whew. But that's enough about me. Spent about 4 minutes talking about me. Let's talk a little bit about. Let's talk about the game. Let's talk about politics as well. That's what I enjoy talking about. Ooh, got him. So, God, like I mentioned in the post, there's like a lot has been happening. It's just like an actually pretty wild amount. Like, when I go into it, hopefully you guys can see what I mean if you saw my post, that like it seemed like the end of 2023 was like a calm before the storm, because all of the politics are just hitting now. And of course I'm a little bit of what I'm doing here is like stalling for time, because there's a lot of news articles and tweets and stuff that I would have to pull up to talk about this stuff. But in lieu of that, I could probably talk about something that I don't need to pull something up to, to talk about here, which is the current debacle that's going on in the U.S. House of Representatives, or that's going to happen in about a month's time, if not sooner than that. So you guys may know that I don't have the best prediction rate when it comes to things that will happen in politics in the procedural sense, whatever. I made some wrong predictions in January of last year when there was a Speaker of the House related debacle occurring. And I also made some wrong predictions when that drama reared its head earlier in 2023. About 9 months after the fact, so in September. So I'll kind of reserve my predictions, but the gist of it is that those two government crises, were about the leadership in the U.S. Parliament, because the House of Representatives is the body that's in charge of all like budgetary stuff. So like when the government passes a budget, when we have a budget for the year that we have to follow, that comes from the House of Representatives. So there has to be some sort of leadership there. And in September there was a looming government shutdown. Like the Republicans had ground the process to a halt and threatened to close down the whole government because they didn't want to pass any spending bills that the Democrats put forward without getting some concessions. This has been the crux of modern American politics ever since the 1990s. This has been the whole thing where Republicans just decide to hold the entire country hostage to try to gut whatever social programs are left in the next budget, and then Democrats, in all of their infinite wisdom, give concessions to them where it wasn't, where it's not warranted. I think this most recent time might be the only time where I would say the Democrats handled things relatively well in the shutdown negotiations and like didn't give any concessions because they didn't need to, or they were like able to convince a select few Republicans to support their version of the bill without very many concessions. Anyways, to not get too lost in the weeds, that shutdown was averted from September, but they did not manage to pass a full year's spending package. This has been the ongoing, like, circling the drain that American budgetary politics have been doing the past 30 years, where it used to be, okay, this time things came to a head, but we've got a new model for our budget making for the next few years, whatever. But then the shutdowns became more and more and more frequent. In fact, in the late 2010s to 2021 or 2, we had a shutdown like every year or every other year, which means that this debacle where the Republicans ground the process to a halt and this is my bad hand, and like stonewalled any efforts to pass a budget. They've been getting more frequent and more flippant, and the resolutions are becoming less and less concrete, less solid, less long-term, to such an extent that in 2023, there were 2 potential shutdown scenarios, both of which resulted in not even a full year's budget being passed. The United States hasn't had, I think, a full year fiscal budget for, like, 2 or 3 years now. We've been operating on these temporary budget provisions and whatnot that have sort of taken the last frame of reference of a complete budget and said, we will extend this for this many months, right? It's like pulling it, it's like stretching it. Or rather just copying and pasting, because it's not like the U.S. is actually running out of money. And this is the most puzzling thing, too, because I've described before that the United States is, without a doubt, the most economically powerful country on the planet. And yet somehow we find ourselves limping from crisis to crisis because the Republican Party just can't do anything. They're just incompetent fucks who hate trans people. So, the next deadline for a spending bill, a budget bill, is March. That's just over a month and a half from now. And if nothing can get passed, if the House doesn't pass any budget, and it's not signed into law, or there's no like continuing resolution or whatever, then U.S. government will shut down and all federal services will come to a halt. States will not get federal money. The post office will no longer work. Any like federal benefits like SNAP will shut down. I think Medicare and Medicaid also will cease functioning, at least at peak capacity. I know some of these programs are administered by the states rather than the federal government, but they are funded by the federal government, so the money will start to dry up. A number of schools will be closed. At least I think that was a thing that used to happen when there was a government shutdown. I'm not sure how much that's the norm still. Yeah. It's not good. It's really not good. Anywho, I did make a prediction, maybe not on stream, but I was talking to my dad about the House of Representatives and how the Republicans can't fucking pick their leadership to save their lives. It seems like a lot of the time. Right now, the Speaker of the House is Republican Representative Mike Johnson. But he was like his selection was on very uneasy ground. Like the Republican Party has so many internal divisions, mostly along very catty, drama oriented lines. That I honestly think that his tenure is going to last even shorter of a time than Kevin McCarthy. And Kevin McCarthy was only Speaker of the House from January of 2023 to September of 2023. That was 9 months, if that. And Representative Mike Johnson, I am predicting, is not going to last even that long. His I believe his tenure so far has only been since September, which is 4 months. He's only been the Speaker of the House for 4 months, and I can't see it going longer than like 8 months for him to be in office. The Republican Party is really on its last legs. They don't have a platform. They are grasping at straws in every respect that you could really determine for the second largest political party in the country. That's the thing that I don't need really a news article to tell me about, because I saw it in passing and I understood pretty immediately what the situation was. Surely this can't be the only room available in CGGP. Oh well. Oh, I didn't get an item. Dang. Oops. Silly me. Oh. After this race, I will be able to move on to one of the things that I do need to bring up some reference for. I'll probably start with the really quick stuff, and then move on to the larger stuff that I'd have to give a more long-winded thoughts about. Actually, Actually, there is something else that I wanted to say here. Uh, so last stream, I did a video review slash react slash whatever to Matt Pat's um, video on YouTube, and how YouTube and ultimately modern social media in general is like breaking people's brains. And I thought it was an incredibly good video. Clearly Matt knows his stuff. He didn't show directly any sources for the points he was talking about, but I'm sure you could go to like any number of sociology articles in like an academic journal, and they would tell you mostly the same thing. And I had some thoughts. I kind of forgot about this. I had some thoughts about social media of my own that I wanted to get out as a companion to me reviewing that video, but ultimately forgot about it. So I will do it here, and then future me can figure out where that fits into the editing process. You know. So social media, one of the ways in which social media is antisocial, is that I think it fundamentally misunderstands what a human social interaction is or ought to be like. In the video, Matt Pat talks about this as the sort of lowest common denominator, like algorithm content that's designed to drive engagement more than anything. And that applies to sites other than YouTube as well. It applies to Twitter, it applies to Facebook and whatever else. And it's why discourse online, on social media and wherever else, is always so toxic, is because that's what gets engagement. People getting in long arguments, that's engagement. That actually drives up like the stock prices and whatnot. That's very, very good for a social media company's bottom line. And as a result, there are a number of things that incentivize that behavior. For example, the whole like retweet whatever system. It's like online points. When you're engaging with somebody on Twitter, you could be doing one of two things. You could be shit posting, which is a hobby I often engage in. Thank you. Very fun, actually. Or you could be like in some sort of argument, in various states of like heated argumentation, you know? It's not like in real life where you would really be able to easily make friends and have casual conversation and things like that. Especially because on Twitter, it's not like a forum such as Reddit, where a lot of things are more specialized to a given topic. On Twitter, everything is public. Everything is meant for the general viewing of the entire Twitter public. Anybody could find that tweet, because it's all on one thing. It's not divided into like subforums. Anyways, what am I getting at here? Well, what made me realize that Twitter and YouTube and wherever else are just these nukes of antisociality was actually a recent bit of drama, which I will not be talking about in any degree of specifics, other than to mention that it involved a lot of people that I knew on Twitter, had interacted with, and previously had quite a deal of respect for, you know? And I was kind of surprised, because all these people I know for a fact share very similar political values, and I actually, because of how proximal I was to the communities of both these people, I dipped one toe into this drama, and it was just nothing but toxicity, sheer toxicity, people being, taking each other out of context, whether on purpose or not. Everybody was prolonging the drama, and nobody, like, could see the most obvious fucking thing imaginable, about it, right? I began by being like this, watching this one video where this guy was like, okay, this is the last I'm going to talk about this, hopefully, I just want to air this all out, right? He proceeded to do that. I came away with a very sympathetic view of his side. Then the other person, and their community posted their thoughts about things that I wasn't privy to, just from watching the one video, uh, that implicated the other guys had like having engaged in some less than savory behavior, and I was like, okay, so you're all assholes, you know? Because in that moment, I realized, I was like, guys, stop fighting, please. And I was like, wait a minute, you know what they could fucking do at any time, with all this drama going on in the public space between people who nominally are involved in politics, that's what these people do. At no point did they ever stop and consider that they could de-escalate uh, in private. Like, everybody involved, they all know each other. Even though there were, like, there were maybe a couple DMs and whatever, the kind of charitability that you would expect to see offline was in no measure present in the online version of this exchange. And I've actually lost a lot of respect for every single person that was in that sort of dramatic encounter. So why do I bring that up? I bring that up to explore why social media is as toxic as it is. The worst tendencies of human behavior are being incentivized for the sake of making a profit for social media companies. Tendencies such as defensiveness, acidic criticism of other people's character, like character assassination, uncharitability, and the view that everybody else is a threat to be one-upped, or like that online engagements, here we go, are fights to be won or lost, not like conversations. And to be honest, online engagements might just be like that. Maybe, because of the degree of anonymity involved, and because of the proxy that is separating people, being the internet and computers, phones, whatever people use. That's probably like just how the internet is always going to be in some measure. But at the end of the day, I think that is an important supplement to what I took away from Matt Pat's video, which is like, the internet is a horrible place to socialize. And I think everybody deserves to know that. I think everybody should understand that, and keep that in mind whenever they see people engaging just in any shape or form on the internet. That this is like bound to go south at any moment. Anything on the internet is just, ugh. In fact, I remember like having that realization in the moment about like, wow, the internet is really bad for human social behavior, right? And human social connection. And I went to bed that night kind of thinking about that. Again, because it involved a lot of people that I have a deal of respect for. And I was like, I wish the internet didn't exist. I wish social media didn't exist right now. It has done so much harm. And ultimately, I'm beginning to doubt the amount of good that can really come of stuff like this. Oh, shit. What's up, Kevin? I got Aerocross. Uh, you know what? Actually, I might want to rephrase that. I know I went for, like, quite a while about the problems with social media just as a concept. And I do intend to have some sort of companion piece to the Matt Pat video, having having seen it and having my own thoughts to offer on the matter. So I think I'm gonna try to recover what I just covered, but like a little bit more succinctly. I think social media is fundamentally toxic to human behavior, right? and this is an important thing to understand in conjunction with the Matt Pat video, right? Um, because computers and the internet function as a proxy whenever you're using social media or whatever, online engagements are never anything more than squabbles or fights that you win or lose, you know? It's not a space where anybody's incentivized to acknowledge whether they are right or wrong, right? Even if you're wrong online, nobody can just politely engage with you on you being wrong, right? Even if they appear like they're trying to do that, it is always a condescension at the very least whenever somebody is wrong, somebody else is right, whatever, because it's being done in front of an audience. There we go. That's what I'm reaching for. So it's always a like, there's always something on the line that you'll like lose street cred if you lose an interaction online. And that's a dynamic that isn't present in any like in any sense in just a casual conversation with people that you know. Um, and there's something else I wanted to add to that too, I think. Incentive to what am I searching for here? You can take first, dude. I think I lost my train of thought, honest to God. Um, see, I was talking about social media. Interactions are things that you lose or win. There's no... Oh, here we go. All of the, like, the fundamentally social behaviors that we engage in real life are disincentivized in social media. You know, why would you do that? Like, there's no... the feedback you get in a real life setting is not there in a social media setting, in an online setting. Uh, it provides its own set of like feedbacks that are entirely based around winning and losing. It's about spectacle, you know, because you're in front of an audience, unless it's like in certain exceptions, like in a Discord group chat or whatever, where it's all people that you know, and stuff like that. And sometimes even then, because they can all see what you said at any time. Uh, Ow! What the hell? So I guess with that in mind, with like, use social media responsibly. It's almost like a drug, you know. You know you can partake of it and stuff like that, but I don't know, dude. How do I wrap that up? social media is cringe and gay, in parentheses derogatory, not the gay, fruity, fun kind of gay, the derogatory, stupid kind of gay. There we go. Because it disincentivizes positive human social behaviors between people, because the feedback that you would get in the actual presence of another person is not there, and it incentivizes the worst tendencies of human behavior, the most antisocial tendencies that we all have, because of the lack of consequences for anything that we do online, or rather the perceived lack of consequence, and the fact that you're always in front of an audience that could be won or lost for sometimes literally quantifiable points on a scoreboard. And, just generally spectacle is incentivized over proper social engagement for, again, the sake of social media companies' bottom lines. There we go. I'll conclude that there. I've gone on for long enough, and I've pondered about this for long enough. I will now move my relatively disorganized thoughts elsewhere to something that I actually have to pull up a news article for. Not a news article per se, but a poll that I saw on, where else? Twitter. It's 100cc. Interesting. So let's get started on the thing that I had to grab a source for. So starting with international politics, 2024 is for a lot of countries an election year, including Germany. I don't know exactly what the election schedules are like in European countries. I know they can have snap elections, but I don't know whether that affects their regular election schedule. Regardless, I saw a poll that was interesting and in some measure very doom-inspiring, because of the state of party politics in Germany. So most European countries are in some form or another a like multi-party parliamentary democracy, right? They typically, there will be some assortment of center, left, and right-wing parties. Some parties will have more of a presence than others, and generally the prominence of certain parties can be very indicative of the state of that country economically, socially, politically, whatever. And in Germany, there's been some worrying developments. Now, for a couple years, the AfD, Alternative for Deutschland, has been on the rise. They are the neo-Nazi party in Germany, who has said on more than one occasion that Germany needs to reverse course on its treatment of the Nazis in its history, in reference to the like, what was it? Viewing the period of Nazi governance as like a shameful thing, and they said, yeah, we should do a 180 on that, stopping just short of saying we should be admiring our political predecessors, the Nazis, and things like that. But they're only polling at about 20%. But out of the, I think, 7 parties, it looks like, 9 actually, that exist in Germany, or the 9 major political affiliations, that's a lot. So there's the other parties are the Social Democrats, SPD, the Green Party, the Green Party, the Christian Democratic Party, Die Linke, the left. Linke just means left. This one's called FDP. I don't know what that stands for, but I think it's also a center liberal party. The FW Party, which I think is another fringe right-wing party. And a new one, the BSW Party. So the only two left-wing parties, or the only three left-wing parties nominally, are Linke, Green, and Social Democrats, right? The Social Democrats are the party currently in power in the government. They are the biggest player in the governing coalition. I think they actually coalition built with the uh, Christian Democrats, the center-right party, which leads me to my list of caveats that I'm now going to introduce that indicate just how fucked Germany is. The Social Democrats have long since abandoned any notion of being actually on the left and have basically devolved into centrist neolibs who are basically like the 1990s U.S. Democratic Party or the Blairite Labor, New Labor, or even Keir Starmer's Labor in Britain. Their main interest is just austerity politics, and they've sort of devolved into the economic conservatism that we saw in the late 20th century. Right, very disappointing stuff. The cracks of this began to show as far back as the Weimar Republic, when the Social Democrats sided with the Nazis against the communists in the attempted communist coup of government. I have my own problems with the Communist Party in Germany, but I think it was a massive mistake to align with the Nazis over them. If you were to make a choice in that instance. In fact, as early on as the late 1800s, the late 19th century, the German Social Democratic Party had actually abandoned the idea of being a socialist party. Rosa Luxemburg writes about this. In the 1890s, she critiques Edward Bernstein, a German Social Democrat and I think political economist, who, you were not going to believe this, 100 years early proffered the end of history myth and said that we found the end-all be-all form of government, liberal democracy, presiding over the end-all be-all economic system of liberal capitalism, and the only change that is possible is marginal and around the edges. Nothing can be fundamentally done to alter the structure of the economy and the state. Yeah. So they've basically been Blairites ever since the 1890s, or at least there's been a Blairite presence in the party. Pay no mind to the fact that Blair, Tony Blair was Prime Minister of Britain in like I think the 90s, early 2000s. Well, whatever. So that is my character assassination of the Social Democratic Party in Germany. They are not really a left party in any appreciable sense of the word. Die Linke, the left party, is not a serious party in Germany. They are polling, as of this poll, they're only polling at 3%. They are completely politically ineffective. And they are one of the left parties in Europe and America that make the grave mistake of tying their legacy to the Soviet Union. They can basically be discounted out of hand. Then we have the Green Party in Germany, which shares a similar fate to the combined Social Democrats and Linke. They are also not a serious party. They abandoned a lot of their pledges to green energy in favor of coal, if you can believe it. Germany's been struggling with energy because the Green Party in Germany is basically now just an anti-nuclear energy party. And that's all they stand for. And they've abandoned a lot of their promises to incorporate green energy into the fundamental structure of the German economy. Such bastions of the left. And then the center-right, like liberal parties, I think, I don't really need to go too deeply into those because they're center-right liberal parties. But the new party is the ultimately the straw that broke the camel's back and made me realize, dog, Germany is so fucking cooked, right? If it were just for these other factors, right? A relatively prominent AfD with a hollowed out neoliberal shell of an SPD Green coalition with the CDU alongside them, then Germany would be just stagnating, right? but a new social nationalist party has just formed, mostly out of rejects from some of the other nominally left parties in Germany, called the BSW. I don't know what it stands for, but now they are, according to this one poll, I don't know how much I believe it, polling at 14%, which is more than the Social Democratic Party, or about as much as the Social Democratic Party. Uh, and that's actually a little bit more than the Green Party, making them a serious player in German politics. And they're basically a Noswell party, is what they are. So Germany now has centrist libs, centrist libs, centrist libs, centrist libs, Nazis, and Noswells. Uh, Holy shit! I think I accidentally joined the EU. It's not good. Um, In fact, this is another thing that Rosa Luxemburg talks about. A lot of, if my criticisms of De Linke are accurate in that they're like basically, woke scolds or tankies or like some other brand of like edgy leftists who are actually just social democrats at the core of things. Uh, then we're like in real time witnessing what Rosa Luxemburg described as basically the social democrat to Nazi pipeline, where gradually they like through rabid anti-intellectual populism, people and elected officials abandon their commitments to like the politics of the working class, and they shift to the increasingly insane right wing, who are in this case very well, almost a direct one-to-one of the Nazis and the Noswells in 1920s and 30s Germany. Pretty wild. Yeah, third place. Uh, but yeah, okay. So if I go over all of the parties, one of these is, I think, just no party affiliation. So there's people who are not like registered with any party. We've got centrist libs, center right libs, centrist libs, center right libs, Nazis, uh, fucking joke of a political party, tankies and the like, center right libs, and Noswells. And that's German politics. This is what happens when your country just does neoliberalism forever and fucking stagnates. And Germany is one of the countries that economically is better off considering Europe's current state of affairs. Um, you know, their economy has been sort of growing since the 2008 collapse. One of the few economies in Europe that have been like this. Um, but the line hasn't been going up very, very significantly relative to somewhere like, I don't know, the U.S., Canada, fucking China, India, like one of those countries that still has a lot of room to grow. And as I have said before, GDP increase is not necessarily good. Like that doesn't necessarily solve your country's economic problems. British? I got a lot of Brits in this room. Dog, I feel so bad for Britain. Their country's fucking dead in the water. Seriously, it's a poor country with one wealthy region, and that's it. Kind of wild. Anywho, next thing. Okay, I'll do one thing at a time. I'll do a big thing, then small thing. That was a less big thing, so let's do a big thing now. Uh, that means it's America time because America's big, right? America's big, big. America, big. So, CBS News. Texas blocks federal border agents from processing migrants in Eagle Pass Public Park. So, there's been a standoff going on for a couple of days now, actually. Um, for those of you not familiar with the US's governmental system, what makes this possible, this standoff, is that the United States has a military, the federal government has the military, and then each state, all 50 of them, have a national guard. Each state has its own military, its own militias, its own like version of the armed forces, right? Which are tasked with, intervening in extreme circumstances and doing other sort of military-related things, as well as contributing forces sometimes to federal efforts if necessary. Uh, what happened here was Texas National Guardsmen and federal border agents, border police, had a standoff because Texas had been putting razor wire in the water. See, to cross into the United States, most migrants would have to come up north from Mexico or somewhere south of there. They would have to cross the Rio Grande. It's a big river. Crossing a river is difficult. A lot of people die doing this. For Texas, that's not enough, though. They actually want more people to die. So they put barriers, buoy barriers in the water. And then because barriers on their own won't necessarily kill people or even deter them all that hard from crossing, they attached razor wire sometimes in invisible spots to these barriers, to these like floating barricades. And this has resulted in people, as well, including children, dying in their attempts to cross the border into the United States, which, granted, is against the law, but it is only against American law, and it is only about as illegal as crossing the street without using a crosswalk. It is not a serious offense in any measure of the word. But because it's mostly brown people doing it from the southern border, Republicans treat it like an offense against God himself. And of course, that's not even to mention that, like, international law dictates that you can't make something as simple as a border crossing illegal insofar as the act itself. But the United States doesn't respect international law, so that's kind of a non-consideration, as fucked up as that sounds. That was very dangerous. Oh, it's not going to hit him. Unless? Dang. This track is fun, though. So yeah, the first issue that they clashed over was, like, I think the razor wire stuff, or maybe it was like this incident in the park. I'll get back to the article when I can. Oh my god. Urgh. I wanted to see what that was, but yeah. Oh well. Ow. I'm not racing great, but I've been driving alright. Certainly not bad. Okay. Best item. Got him. Hee. Shells? Sure. Okay. Both plays. This track is becoming one of my new favorites. It's a lot of fun. And the stuff that you can do, shroomless to get like a leg up on the people that don't know about it, are not very difficult, which means at most you go like a lap or two without realizing that you can do it. And then you know it, because it's so simple. Let's see what CBS has to say. What was it? Yes, Eagle Pass Public Park. Yeah, so the process for processing immigrants in the United States, which includes asylum seekers, believe it or not, despite what anybody will tell you, migrants and refugees are treated the same in the United States if they're coming from the same route, is that they have to cross the border and declare themselves at a port of entry, at which point the United States can begin assessing their claim for asylum, be it political or economic asylum. And, you know, things get sorted from there. But it's a very arduous process for the migrants themselves. And oftentimes they don't see a resolution, excuse me, slip of the tongue, for a long time. And during that time, they are regrettably subject to intimidation and whatever by American Border Patrol, by police, by, I guess, the Texas National Guardsmen in this case, because they wanted to see them drown in the river or get cut up by razor wire. It's a whole thing, and there's some conflicts between international law and American law, as I mentioned, that because of a lot of weirdly reactionary sentiment in as stable a period as the 1990s, you know, for the United States, crossing the border into the United States is illegal. It's only as illegal as crossing the street, but it is illegal. And you can be deported before even reaching a port of entry to declare yourself. And, you know, I could go on about prevention through deterrence, something, but the current situation is such that, like, now the federal government is for once attempting to take a little bit of a lighter hand to the issue of immigration and asylum seekers. And Texas is so bloodthirsty that they've decided that the very anti-immigrant status quo, as far as policymaking, is actually not, doesn't go far enough. And you know, they want to just, well, again, I can only say they want to kill brown people so many times before it gets old and whatnot. But it ain't good. I'm not racing that well this race. That was a pretty good... Alright, let's try this again. Let's go. Ooh. That ought to be useful. I am fucked. I'm getting bumped like a motherfucker. I'll take it. I wonder if there's any time for me to use that mega, or I was just kind of doomed from the outset there. I'm surprised I still got 5th that race. I didn't race very well. Okay. So, what seems to be the nature of this clash from a couple days ago? This is still going on, mind you. Texas state officials abruptly blocked federal border patrol agents from entering and patrolling a public area in the border town of Eagle Pass, where they typically first encounter migrants who cross the Rio Grande illegally. After seizing control of the park, the Texas National Guard deployed units by the orders of Governor Greg Abbott, and they have prevented Border Patrol agents from entering the area. Border Patrol has used the park in recent weeks to hold migrants in an outdoor staging area before they are transported for further processing, including last month when illegal crossings soared to record levels. A lot of people have been coming up from South America, from Mesoamerica for a long time because the United States has a habit of fucking up those countries irrevocably. Earlier Thursday, Texas state officials prevented Border Patrol boats from patrolling that area, one of the officials added, requesting anonymity because they were not authorized to talk to the press. Fucking pussies. They're denying entry to Border Patrol agents to conduct our duties. Noting that they're not sure what authority Texas officials have over the federal government. Damn, that's a good point. Here we go. In a filing early Friday with the Supreme Court, the Justice Department described the extraordinary standoff between Texas and the federal government. Citing testimony from local officials and photos, the department said Texas was using armed guardsmen and vehicles to deny Border Patrol agents and federal National Guard soldiers access to roughly 2.5 miles, which would be, let's see, what would that be? Like, more than 5 kilometers of border. You know, it's a lot of border that's being involved in this standoff. Let me get to a more suitable area and then I can continue. Ah, poor Rosalina. She got hit. She didn't even talk shit. She got hit. Texas' new actions at the Department of State, not Department of State, Department of Justice, excuse me, demonstrate an escalation of the state's measures to block Border Patrol's ability to patrol or even surveil the border and be in a position to respond to emergencies. So here we have actually a rare instance of what seems like a lighter hand being taken towards asylum seekers, Border Patrol being ordered to patrol the waters, not to deter migrants, but rather to take them in and like send them to proper ports of entry where they can have their claims assessed without the immediate fear of just being deported back to whatever country they came from, which I'm sure would be a hell of a lot more dire than the situation that they face in the United States. Scroll down a bit. Wonder what happened to him. Okay. Under federal law, Border Patrol has a legal responsibility to process migrants on U.S. soil and determine whether to detain them, transfer them to another agency, deport them, or release them into the country. Pending a hearing, court hearing for their like asylum claims and whatnot. So, before I continue, I need to say this because this is something that I can say off the cuff. The issue that is at stake here is not one of law, right? There is no ambiguity that, like, federal government has the authority to do this. Texas just being a little whiny bitch about it. No, I'm not here to, like, debate or present an argument for the constitutionality of what's going on here, right? The issue at stake is that this is something that's, like, literally unprecedented since the days of the Civil War and the antebellum South. the last time a state was this rebellious in the face of the federal government, we sent our fucking generals to go marching from Chattanooga to Atlanta, and by our generals I mean Sherman, and like destroy Southern industry because they seceded to protect the institution of slavery. You know, that's the last time some shit like this happened, where states decided that they had more authority than the federal government on, like, I don't know, federal policy making, whatever the fuck. Again, the issue here is an ethical one, where the existing policy is one of, like, okay, you know, good governance, and we need to process immigrants and asylum seekers properly, so they at least get a fair shot to live in the United States, and not have to be jettisoned back to whatever country they came from. That is undoubtedly a much more dire political situation than here. And Texas's political stance is, we don't want any brown people coming into the country from the South, and we will literally kill children in the Rio Grande to prevent that from happening. In fact, the prevention of people coming to the United States is actually secondary to the witnessing of human misery. Texas, well, if people were really interested in making the flow of immigration into the United States more manageable, what they would be focusing on is trying to stabilize the countries that people are fleeing from, so that they would have less incentives to leave, and life would be better if they would choose to stay there. And they would also focus on overhauling the immigration system in America, so that whatever people do come here from the South, particularly, is where the United States gets most of its immigration flow. Whatever people do come here can be processed in an expedient fashion and with relatively little fuss. That's one of the big, those are the two big issues that are causing immigration to be such a political issue. In fact, in every country, this is where immigration is a large political subject. This is the case. And also in every country, like in the United States, the far right is not actually interested in reducing immigration. What they are interested in is killing the immigrants that do come there. You know. Although, of course, I give them the credit. I'm giving them the credit of, like, knowing that there is a solution to the issue of there being a lot of immigration that's being poorly handled, and that they're just sort of rejecting that because they don't like the idea of human happiness. But I've had enough discussions on this to the point that I kind of know that that's what's going through their heads. Because the options are, you're stupid or you're evil. And a lot of these people are not, not 100% stupid. They're at least 10% absolutely evil. Yeah. He got me good. Oof. Oh, okay. Ow. Ouch. Okay. Don't get hit by that bullet, please. That would be preferable if I didn't get hit by that. Hey, I got him. Sweet. Hold back, hold back. All right, we're good, we're good. I'm in the most hectic part of the room here. Yeah, what's up, 1v3? I was just talking about the standoff that Texas National Guardsmen and Federal Border Patrol agents are having. It seems like there's a lot of political unrest brewing in the American South, or at least there's like tensions between the state and federal government there. In fact, I might be jonesing for like a soft reset of that topic. I might want to like just start talking about it again because I don't want to waste too much time on the establishing context of what's going on there. Because there's new developments coming out about that story right now that Texas is like actually doing some things that could be considered secessionist like politics. So the gist of it that started a couple days ago is that federal border police and the Texas National Guard, the military of the state of Texas, every state has its own military in addition to the federal military, these two groups got in a standoff because the federal border patrol was going out to carry out their orders, which is to patrol the border to find migrants that are coming to the United States and temporarily detain them in like a holding facility or just in an open area like a public park, so that they can either be released into the country for a hearing or sent back to the countries that they came from, or just to hold them there for a little bit, like if they've gotten separated from their families. It's not the greatest thing, because one of those options is that they just get deported, but that's what they're up to. Meanwhile, the Texas National Guard answers to the governor, and the governor of Texas has decided that no migrants, none at all. Texas has a really large border stretch with Mexico, and to get to Texas from Mexico, you have to cross the Rio Grande. That means the big river in Spanish. And Texas had been putting buoy barriers with razor wire in the water to prevent people from swimming across. And people had been getting snagged on the razor wire and dying and in the river. In addition to the people that drown, there are also people who get caught on the buoys and they get cut up by the razor wire and they bleed out. Many of them children. So Texas decided that they want more human misery. They want more suffering. And the government, the federal government, for once, has decided actually less suffering would be pretty good. And this standoff is actually still going on. It has been going on for 2.5 days running. There was a story just from a couple of hours ago that I want to get to if I can. Yeah, okay, makes sense. I'll probably back off a little bit. This guy can have first. Yeah. Hmm. Okay, now I want first. Not doing a low trick actually saved me there. I sent you the world map on Discord. Cool. I'll get to it just after this story. So, new story from CBS about this border standoff. Texas, quote, physically barred Border Patrol agents from trying to rescue migrants who drowned, federal officials say. Proceed with caution? Yeah, with care, rather, yes. A woman and 2 children drowned in the Rio Grande on Friday while trying to enter the U.S. near a section of the southern border where Texas National Guard soldiers have prevented Federal Border Patrol agents from processing and rescuing migrants. They did not allow the Border Patrol to get into the river and save them. This is coming after the initial phases of this standoff a couple days ago. And of course, the spokespeople for the federal government are being interviewed and saying, like, this is a tragedy, and the state of Texas bears responsibility for this. Texas knows that. The state of Texas knows that. They only, they're only doing this because they think they can get away with it and not incur consequences from the federal government, and stuff like that. Yeah, here we go. White House spokesperson Angelo Fernandez Hernandez. Those are two different names, by the way. His name is Angelo Fernandez Hernandez. Anyway, he said Texas soldiers blocked U.S. Border Patrol from attempting to provide emergency assistance to migrants. While we continue to gather facts about the circumstances of these tragic deaths, one thing is clear: Governor Abbott's political stunts are cruel, inhumane, and dangerous. They're not dangerous to him, but they are dangerous to the people crossing the river. That's for damn sure. This is like escalating to now be a full-fledged, national political incident, in the United States. The Department of Justice is getting involved, which is the the federal prosecutors. And so is, I think, the Department of Homeland Security, which is some... I don't know exactly what it does, except for, like, surveillance and shit like that. It's, like, it was set up after 9/11, so all likelihood is it has, like, basically no real purpose. But regardless, there are federal agencies getting involved in investigating this incident, since Texas has decided to go sicko mode on migrants coming up from the southern border. Use this mushroom here. And like I said earlier, this is an incident the likes of which literally has not happened. Like, the last time something this of this caliber happened, where a state just decided to rebel against the federal government with its military, that was the American Civil War, was the last time that happened. And, if Texas wants to do that, then I guess Texas wants to do that. But this is, like, a very, like, flash moment of pretty concerning instability in the United States. Because here we have an entire state's military. Texas is the second largest state in the United States by population. Second only behind California, I believe. And the military of that state is willing to directly contravene orders from the federal government in favor of what their governor is telling them, to such an extent that they're having standoffs with the federal government and the military. Or rather with, like, border police and stuff. It's not good. Do I think this is going to lead to another civil war? Probably no. But I do think Texas needs to be BTFO'd, and I think, honestly, even though this is not a realistic course of action insofar as, like, Joe Biden and the Democrats are too much of pussies to ever consider this, honestly, what I think needs to happen from this point... Oh, hey, that guy got 9s. Is the federal government needs to send troops to militarily occupy the southern states, and we need to finish Reconstruction. Honest to God. Off of the heels of that story I saw last stream, about the unmarked mass grave in Jackson, Mississippi, where the cops had been just vigilante-style killing random black people and burying their corpses there. And now Texas literally posturing for a potential military revolt, even if they don't end up doing it. it's clear that the South has not learned their lesson from the slavers' revolt that happened in the 19th century. And ultimately, I think it was one of the biggest policy mistakes, probably the biggest mistake that the United States made in the entire 19th century that reverberates on until now, was pulling back on Reconstruction. And I know that wasn't a mistake for the racist politicians that were in office at that point, but from the perspective of national policymaking and actually establishing a solid bedrock from a nation building perspective, that was objectively a mistake because it led to so much instability that didn't need to exist, just for the sake of recreating the racial hierarchy from the antebellum days. And we still have that hierarchy, a much softer version of it. Black people are free and can vote now, whereas in the antebellum days they literally couldn't. But we are not as far from the Jim Crow era as we thought for a long time. And now the issue of immigration has been thrown into the mix as well, where the racial hierarchy is now changing to include on one of the lower rungs brown people who come up from Mexico, from really any country in Central and South America that have to go through Mexico. And, this can't stand to go unaddressed. If this goes unaddressed, it will be the death of the United States, or rather it will be another civil war if it goes completely unaddressed. As it is now, what's happening right now would probably be enough to quell the issue, but it's not enough. Not in the long term anyways. So like I said, Reconstruction 2, Electric Boogaloo. We need to resurrect General Sherman, and he needs to go burning again. Oh boy, this section. You know what? This track is actually growing on me for that section. I know this is a very bizarre thing to say, but there's a sense of camaraderie for the shared misery that everybody has to collectively experience when you go through that weird fucking gold Twizzler section, Excuse me, gentlemen. That guy just got so fucked. Oh, jeez. Well, there's still all of lap 3. Hopefully he gets far enough behind that he gets some good items and stuff. I didn't want to just end that guy's race right there. And, usually prefer to not do that. But it was funny, in my defense, Your Honor. Ow, fuck! Did he hit the fake item box, or did he hit my green shell? Either way, I got him. Not feeling real good right now, so I won't be there to tell you what the map is about. Of course, you can check, but you'll be left in mystery. See you later. Have a good one. All right. Yeah, likewise. See you later. Hope you feel better. Go get some rest. Drink some warm water or something. Okay. That went a lot better than last lap. That thing. There's really nowhere else to use that mushroom. Yeah. How do you outline me there? I'm on Mach Bike. Damn. Yeah. Ooh, red shells. I think I know when I want to throw these. And it's right about here, once I round this corner. Yeah. Throw another one here. It's not. I'll use this mushroom here right before I get to this section. Ow. That's probably for the best. Just don't wheelie. Don't wheelie. Okay, now I can do this. I feel like I didn't drive all that bad. Yeah. Okay. Nice. Alright, let's check out this map on Discord, and then I'll do some other stuff. I just did a big story. Now I will do a smaller thing, which is that map. Hit post. Very heavy themed, and really opened up some new doors. Okay. Interesting map. I'm not going to show this on screen, but let's see. It is color coded, and there are let's see, it's a map of the world color coded into shades of green, yellow, orange, and red. There's yellow, there's orange, there's 2 shades of green, and there's actually 2 shades of red. Let's see. Much of southern Africa is red. Russia is red. South Korea and Taiwan are both red. Lithuania is red. Greenland and Guyana are both dark red, which is interesting. Mongolia, Kazakhstan, Belarus, Latvia, and Ukraine are orange, as are Cameroon and I believe that's Ghana. Or no, that's Cote d'Ivoire. Cote d'Ivoire and Cameroon are also orange. The United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, India, Finland, Sweden, and Norway, and Iceland are all yellow, as well as various countries in Africa. What else am I looking at? Most of Europe is light green, as is China, Southeast Asia, Iran. I don't know what this map is. So I can't really offer my thoughts on it very much. What if I just tried to front run this race? How would that go, do you think? Probably wouldn't go great. But it'd be interesting. No way this works. Okay, shock happened. Imagine? If this works, that would be wild. No way. I just front ran Mario Circuit 1 and won by like a solid 2.5, 2 seconds. That was fucking wild. What the fuck? That's not supposed to happen, I feel like. That's like once in a blue moon, I guess. Alright. What else do I want to talk about? Let's stick with the smaller thing, right? Political discourse on Twitter. This one's a little bit older, but it's from somebody that I follow, so and it got some decent attention. To be honest, engagement is down on Twitter for just about everything except lowest common denominator posts and like marble statue profile pics. Uh, but this thing had some discourse around it. A tweet from the Anarchist Turtle. Soyjack in the top part of the frame, there's a Soyjack saying queer people should be normal, law-abiding citizens like everybody else. And then in the bottom, there's a ambiguously feminine Wojak, not sure if it's a femboy or a girl or whatever, saying, crime has been the core of queer since queer came into existence. The church and state criminalize our bodies and sex. We, in turn, embrace this criminalization as a means of survival in the capitalist economy. Top reply, SDL, another person that I follow, with saying queers should not, quote, embrace the criminalization of our bodies and our sex, which I agree with. So, because I follow this person and actually respect them for reasons I'll get into in a little bit, I will first give my most charitable possible interpretation of this take. It is going to sound like a stretch, and because it is a stretch. So, what I could charitably interpret this as is that ever since people have discovered the phenomenon of queerness, queer people have been pushed to the fringes, and we have to, acknowledge that there's some people you just won't be able to convince, something like that. Or rather, that's not quite it. I don't want to entirely misrepresent what I think the post is trying to say here, but I think it's more meant to convey the sentiment of, if being queer is enough to get you on the wrong side of the law, then fuck the law. I think that's a pretty simple and charitable distillation of this sentiment, and that sentiment I agree with, right? Like, it is stupid. It is very stupid on a number of levels that legal institutions would have their full force brought to bear over somebody for this as petty a reason as their sexual preferences and alignment, right? But that's not what the tweet said. What the tweet said was that crime has been the core of queer since queer came into existence. No, being queer is only a crime because people in power who have like really fucking retarded social attitudes have deemed it as such, right? And the historical struggle for queer rights is a struggle for legal acceptance, right? The subject of queer rights as like a political topic is not to accept our disenfranchisement or our pushing to the fringes, but rather to enfranchise ourselves and to cease being upon the fringes so that we are accepted as a normal and perfectly socially acceptable part of civil society, right? So no, embracing ourselves as criminals and thinking of ourselves as such does no favors for anybody, and it's a bad political strategy. You know? Although, again, I would not, because I am not a liberal, I would not say queer people should be normal, law-abiding citizens like everybody else, because I don't believe anybody should be a law-abiding citizen. Thank you. But I will say that queer people are normal citizens like anybody else, and should be treated as such. You know? All this meme does, or this sentiment, the whole conflating of queerness and crime, but from the woke perspective, all this does is reinforce the position that queer people need to be on the fringes of society. The only difference between this and what a right-winger would say is right-wingers would say that queer people need to be on the fringes of society so we can root out degeneracy, and this anarchist turtle is saying that queer people need to be on the fringes of society because that is the only place where we can thrive. Both of them are wrong. But I do want to get into why I still respect this person. Undoubtedly, they are probably a teenage anarchist with very edgy opinions, such as abolishing bedtimes. Does that mean I disagree with them on everything? No, I will disagree with them on a lot of stuff, but not on everything. In fact, I think bedtimes are cringe. I mean, as a social convention, they work, but like curfews are dumb. Uh, no, what I want to get into is that oftentimes on Twitter, in any political discourse, you will find all sorts of frothing at the mouth, uh, political actors, right? And points of view, right? Left and right, mostly right wing. In fact, all of them rely on a pretty fascistic and like hyper collectivist logic, or like a campus logic that only makes the world worse, right? A lot. This is a lot of words for me to say that, like, there's a lot of tankies out there and a lot of woke schools, a lot of lefties who share a lot in common with right wingers in how they see the world and how they think the world should be run. They just sort of use different buzzwords. And one of the few groups that I actually have respect for in these political circles is anarchists, because they're the only people that I find consistently have good ethical bases for their positions. A lot of other people are just campists and like have very fascist adjacent sentiments and like weird spiritualist, like anti-empiricist, like dribble that would, if you drew it out long enough, lead to the extermination of ethnic minorities in some form or another. You know? And what I'm trying to say here is that for all of this guy's faults, for all of the ways in which he can be really dumb sometimes, him and other anarchists, I would trust to not shoot me in the back of the head. Liberals, tankies, I would not trust to shoot me in the back of the head, because historically that is what they have done to anarchists. And I have no doubt that they would continue to do so, because their political values center around the supremacy of the state. And the supremacy of hegemonic hierarchical institutions. So to bring it all back and to tie it up in a relatively neat bow, the underlying logic of this post, that queer people are inherently criminal, is not correct. I think it's cringe. But at the same time, this person, I think, does genuinely care about queer people, the queer movement, whatever, and I would trust them to not shoot me in the back of the head, whereas some people who might turn out more sane takes, I would not trust to not shoot me in the back of the head if the opportunity presented itself in a heated political situation, etc., etc. So, you know, anarchism is cool. Anarchists can post some cringe stuff sometimes, but I still trust them more than tankies and liberals in that respect. Because this is actually a real quote from a theorist. I don't remember who it was, but I've seen this quote before. And it does deserve to be engaged with, even though I think it's wrong. But ultimately, queer rights are good, and the way to realize the promise of queer rights and gender abolition, thank you, I'm also that, but queer rights mostly, is to foster their acceptance in polite society rather than to normalize their position on the fringes. We should normalize their position in the core rather than on the fringes. This is one of those funky tracks where the time of day actually changes. Whoa, I hit... Ah! Dang it. I was gonna say I hit a pole, but then I also got fucked up by that guy's Mega Mushroom. Alright, I got a lot of catching up to do. This race. Yeah. Okay. Give me this. Aha! Get me out of here. One red shell. Sure. One mushroom. Pretty cool. I'll take that one mushroom. And I'll do something with it. I don't know exactly what, but... Oh. Well, that answers that question! How did I not fall off? What is going on? I hit the underside of that? Hello? That was so wacky. Ow. I got hit by my own red shell. What the hell? Bro, what the hell? What the hell? Oh, first is way up there, aren't they? Yeah. I don't have an item. Fruit. I think I drove all right that race. For all the mayhem that happened. Sure, I'll keep going. Random. So, I've done a relatively small thing. Let's do one of the big things. Let's do the big story. Which would have to do with South Africa. Here we go. So, you guys might have heard, if you're paying attention to international politics, you know, stuff that goes on in the UN and whatnot. South Africa has brought a case against Israel for genocide in the International Court of Justice. And it is a very strong case as to what other prosecutors have said about it, including the guy that prosecuted the case of Bosnia-Herzegovina against Yugoslavia, or the former Yugoslavia, and he won that case, and he thinks South Africa is going to win this case. Regardless, South Africa has officially accused Israel of genocide. A couple other countries have joined this this suit. And there are a number of details that I could get to, but I think the important thing is that there is now a legal proceeding against Israel, because wow, you know, Israel ran through the favor that it had with the West really fucking fast. After October 7th, you know, there was a lot of propagandizing done about how, like, this is like 9/11 but worse and whatever. And, like, sure, I guess, you know, if you want to say October 7th was like the Israeli 9/11, you know, you could say that, and that'd be fair, I guess. But at the same time, there's a big difference that a lot of the sympathy for 9/11 lasted for well long after the event itself. Meanwhile, the world kind of ran out of sympathy for Israel almost as soon as October 7th happened, right? Like, instantly people could see, you know, the atrocities that Israel was perpetrating against the Palestinian people in Gaza. And even governments only took a few months to catch on that, like, hey, supporting Israel might not be the best idea. The only country that hasn't, like, kind of backed off of their support of Israel is the United States. And that's because Israel is a military base for us in the region. And, you know, for all the problems that possesses, the United States has been, like, zealously guarding the position of Israel in regards to, like, basically anything that they do wrong, where other countries haven't. And another significant development is that South Africa, in its genocide case against Israel, has actually started to consider bringing charges, or I think has actually started the process of bringing charges against the United States for being complicit in aiding and abetting in this genocide, actively enabling it to happen and attempting to prevent anybody from stopping it who would have the political will or motivation to stop it. You know. But that requires some details that I can't access right now. I I'm struck with the like pretty doom inspiring thought that like even though I think South Africa has a pretty good chance of like proving its case against Israel, of like winning that case, I don't know if it's actually going to lead to any substantive consequences, especially if the United States remains like gallant or whatever, like steadfast in its support for Israel, because the United States has skirted international law before and faced no consequence. And you know, us doing so again, I don't see how that would really go any differently. You know, I got a mushroom. Wait, that was the mushroom glitch. I had just gone through enough item boxes to trigger the mushroom glitch. That's kind of interesting. Let's look at this news article now that I'm done with the race. Let's see. This is at The Hague, by the way. When you hear International Court of Justice, that's The Hague. That's where people get tried for war crimes, or when there's like court cases about war crimes and stuff. And of course, this is a proper court case. There will be lawyers defending Israel here. Honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. Of course, I think that the argument that Israel is doing a genocide is so strong that it can easily overcome the even a well put together legal defense of what Israel is doing. Let's see. Does this article mention that the U.S. is also implicated in this? Because I thought that was interesting. In fact, the implication of the United States in this court case, I don't know if that makes it more or less likely that any outcome will actually come of this. Because on the one hand, right, the United States does basically have impunity on the international stage, for better or worse. A lot of the time for the worse. But on the other hand, if the United States is implicated, that could potentially, in a political sense, discount what the United States has to say, and say like, hey, you know, you don't get to have a word in this proceeding because you're one of the accused parties. Not necessarily in committing the genocide directly, but in knowingly supplying the arms and weaponry that was used for this genocide, even when confronted with the allegations of genocide. You know? I actually remember which way to go this time. Kind of. Ooh, I hit his banana? That's kind of wild. I see. Ah. Either he missed or he's bagging. And I think bagging is a pretty smart decision in that situation. Hit somebody. missed. Well, at least I won't get blue shelled now. I'm gonna try to save this for lap 3, even though I know there's a pretty big likelihood that I won't get to do the thing. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay. Whew. Quite the wrangle there. Whoa, what the hell? Give me this item box. Ow! Dang it. Ow! What the hell? Dang, dude. I got 3 mushrooms. I should have just gone for it. Ah, dang it. Oh, did nobody go for it? That's kind of interesting. Tense race. Not a fan of 6 King, but this race has been good. Second place. Okay. I think I drove pretty intelligently that race. With the one exception of I really should have gone the other way, lap 3. Even if I only got a single mushroom, that would have been enough to do the shortcut. Here, let me see. ICJ, Israel, US? America implicated in Israel-Palestine conflict? Hmm. In Gaza genocide. Maybe I misheard. You know what? I will bite the bullet on being wrong on this potentially. US is the unnamed co-conspirator. I mean, we all know that the United States is complicit in the ethical, like, moral sense, but as far as yeah, okay. It seems like the role of the United States as co-conspirator was not brought up in the or not as necessarily as co-conspirator, but like aiding and abetting was not necessarily it was not brought up in South Africa's court filing. So how did I not get hit by that? Genuinely insane. What's up, pancake? Ooh. Oh, is that a shortcut? That's kind of cool. Oh, must be something you have to do with the mushroom. Hmm. Oh, I should have... I was trying to trick. It wouldn't let me hit the button. What's up? I'm hanging on to this green shell. I think that's the smart thing to do here. Oh. Guess it didn't matter, because the shock happened, but, you know. Not driving as well this race, I'm noticing. I didn't get an item. That's not good. Oh, you need a mushroom to do that. That's an insane shortcut. What the hell? Hmm. Oh no! That is, I think that is what you're supposed to do, more or less. But I fucked it up. Nice. Okay. Probably got time for one more. In fact, I'll commit to just... I'm gonna do one more. Yeah, actually, there is, if I have the time, there is one thing I want to conclude with. This is just real short, real small stuff. And it's about Vietnam. So I did a video a little while back about communism. Not necessarily the countries like the Soviet Union and whatever, although I did talk a little bit about them, right? I guess it was more centered around the philosophical concept of communism and you know, what are the principles at its core and like what does it imply, right? And I guess this started because I was, you know, map staring with 1v3 and they noted that there's only a few countries that actually call themselves communist. One of those countries is Vietnam. Now, none of the countries that actually call themselves communist are communist. I think only one of them is even socialist, and that one is Cuba. But Vietnam was an interesting case because I hadn't read that much about it, and as from what I had heard tangentially, learning about other countries in the region and reading about, I think in the my reading about like the East Asian Tigers and whatever the. You know, Taiwan, South Korea, those guys. Vietnam actually came up as a success story in the sort of Asian geopolitical region. In fact, it was one of the only countries out of the communist bloc that wasn't China that was seen as like an economic success story, and that made me curious to read about like what did Vietnam do right that a lot of other countries in the developing world uh, failed to do, or like were trapped into not doing, or whatever, right? And it was surprisingly simple. You know, the thing that allowed Vietnam to, at least in some measure, succeed where other countries failed was to, in part, open up to foreign investment, but sort of limit the degree to which foreign investment could really take full ownership of the country, if that makes sense. So, a lot of countries in what is now like the developing world or the third world or whatever have struggled with neocolonialism, and Vietnam early on did a strategy a little bit akin to being colonized in the sense of neocolonialism, but with a couple of caveats. They allowed foreign businesses in. They encouraged foreign investment in a couple of different ways. They used the fact that they had a pretty well educated population proportionally to other countries in the region to encourage that. But where a lot of other countries would fall into the debt loop incurred by loans from the World Bank and the IMF, Vietnam did something different, and it was really simple. They said no. The World Bank has a I think a modus operandi of like proposing certain loans to countries like, hey, you know, we can offer you a loan of this much, but you know, read the fine print. You have to do X, Y, and Z with this money. You're not allowed to use it for this other thing, whatever. And Vietnam basically took the approach of, we'll take your money, but, you know, fuck your terms and conditions, basically. And then they used that money how they saw fit. A lot of it was pretty bog standard capitalistic development, but it went a lot better than the same project or similar projects did in other countries because of like the avoidance of that debt trap. And to date, Vietnam has been one of the strongest cases in the region for not necessarily full protectionism, but like being skeptical of the Western banks while still opening up to a degree of foreign investment from mostly the West, because, you know, that's who has all the wealth. But of course, Vietnam still has problems. It is still very poor relative to like the Western countries, and it is, like I said in the video, I think my broad takeaway was accurate, that Vietnam is basically now a less wealthy version, like a poorer version of the Nordic social democracies, complete with the you know, the flaws of neoliberalism, where, you know, a lot of their country's wealth has been hollowed out to businesses that take the money elsewhere. You know, a lot of the country doesn't, you know, really see the benefits of that money. Income inequality is really high, and things like that. But what was also interesting is that the ruling party, the Communist Party of Vietnam, said has said that, like, from a Marxist lens of analysis, the approach to development that we are taking is that in order to do communism, in order to establish a socialist state or whatever, we have to first create the material conditions of industrialized capitalism for that to even be possible. You know, you can't go straight from like a proto-feudal, like highly agrarian society straight into socialism. You have to pass through stages of capitalism first. How much I believe that, I'm not entirely sure, because there were socialists even in the early days of capitalism. There were socialist thinkers and whatever, but it is definitely a sound model of development. That first you sort of go through you go through industrialization before socializing the economy, right? Although more realistically, it is probably just the Communist Party sort of liberalizing, in a sense, you know, doing what political parties tend to do in power, which is hold on to that power. Let's see. Um, but yeah, overall, I think that, I learned a lot from that, from reading about Vietnam, and it was cool. Anywho, that's all for this stream. I'm not gonna raid anybody this time, I think. Uh, unless... Yeah, no, nobody I know is live, so there's actually nobody to raid. So I'll see you guys on Tuesday to talk about some other stuff. Chief among them, I think, being, like, anti-trans bills, I guess? Yeah, we'll talk about that. Yeah. Hopefully my hand injury is better in the meantime. Hope you enjoyed the stream, and again, see you Tuesday.